Welcome to Barbara's Bulletin, the podcast where we bring you the latest news and updates from around the world. We have a lot of exciting stories to share with you, but first, let's dive into our top story. Tensions between the United States and Cuba seem to be escalating, with a recent meeting between a top American military officer and Cuban commanders at the edge of the U.S. naval base at Guantanamo Bay. Marine General Francis Donovan, the leader of U.S. Southern Command, met with Cuban General Roberto Legra Sotolongo, First Deputy Minister of the Chief of the General Staff, and other senior officers to discuss operational security matters. This meeting comes on the heels of a visit by Central Intelligence Director John Ratcliffe to Havana, where he led a delegation in talks with key government officials. The U.S. has been growing increasingly frustrated with the lack of progress on getting Cuba to free up its economy and political system. The Trump administration has been demanding drastic reforms from Cuba's communist government and has imposed a virtual blockade on the island nation. The situation has become so dire that the energy minister recently announced that diesel and fuel oil needed to keep the power plants running had completely run out. The U.S. has also charged Cuba's 94-year-old former president, Raul Castro, and several others with murder over the shooting down of two civilian aircraft in 1996. With the administration's clamor for major concessions growing louder, there are concerns that military force might be necessary if the new restrictions don't bring about a change in government. As the situation continues to unfold, we'll be keeping a close eye on developments and bringing you updates as more information becomes available. We'll also be exploring different perspectives on this issue to provide a fair and balanced view of the situation. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Barbara's Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbara's Bulletin. We're continuing our coverage of global news, and now we're turning our attention to Malta, where voters are casting their ballots in a snap parliamentary election. The small island nation, with a population of over 341 eligible voters, is choosing its new parliament, and opinion polls suggest that Prime Minister Robert Abella's ruling centre-left Labour Party is ahead in the race. This could pave the way for a record fourth consecutive term for the Labour government, with Abela campaigning on the strength of the economy, promising competence and stability. However, his primary opponent, Nationalist Party candidate Alex Borg, has raised concerns about the impact of the strong economy on the quality of life for Maltese citizens. Borg, a 30-year-old lawyer and former Mr. World Malta beauty pageant title holder, would be the country's youngest leader if he emerges victorious. One of the key issues in this election has been energy bills, which have become a hotly debated topic due to the nation's reliance on imported energy. The incumbent administration has allocated an extra €250 million for subsidies to cushion the blow from the crisis in the Middle East, in addition to €150 million already budgeted for 2026. As voters head to the polls, they're considering not only the economy, but also issues like healthcare, infrastructure, and the pressure on public services due to a huge influx of migrant workers over the past decade. The results of the election are expected to be announced around midday on Sunday, and we'll be keeping a close eye on the developments. In the meantime, let's take a closer look at what this election means for Malta and its people. We've seen a strong economy with low inflation and no real unemployment, but concerns about the future and the potential impact of global events on this small island nation are clearly on voters' minds. As we wait for the results, it's clear that this election is not just about choosing a government, but also about shaping the future of Malta and its place in the world. We'll continue to follow this story and bring you updates as more information becomes available. Welcome back to Barbara's Bulletin. As we wrap up today's show, I'd like to bring your attention to a critical development in the South Caucasus region. Armenia is on the cusp of a pivotal election, and the stakes are high, not just for the country itself, but also for global energy markets. The election has become a focal point of Russian interference, with President Putin drawing parallels between Armenia's westward leaning and Ukraine's attempt to integrate with the EU, which led to Russian intervention in 2014. Investigative reports have uncovered a complex web of Russian influence operations targeting Armenia, aimed at discrediting the current administration and promoting figures who advocate for closer ties with Russia. These efforts include diaspora mobilization campaigns, disinformation initiatives, and covert financing networks, all designed to shape Armenian public opinion and secure a favorable electoral outcome for Moscow. What's striking about this situation is that American and Chinese interests overlap more than either side publicly acknowledges. Both Washington and Beijing benefit from stability in the Caucasus, and both lose when Russia injects instability into the region. This dynamic is reflective of a broader trend across Eurasia and Africa, where Russian operations undermine local stability and threaten long-term commercial and strategic interests. As we consider the implications of this election, it's essential to recognize that geopolitics often produces unexpected alignments. The United States, China, Europe, and major energy firms all have direct strategic interests in the outcome of Armenia's election. If Russian destabilization efforts succeed, global energy markets will likely face another disruption. On the other hand, if these initiatives fail, the energy interests of Europe, China, and the United States will be better secured. As we conclude this segment, it's crucial to acknowledge that the situation in Armenia is complex and multifaceted. While Russia's actions are undoubtedly provocative, it's also important to consider the perspectives of all parties involved. The outcome of this election will have far-reaching consequences, not just for Armenia, but for the global community. That's all for today's Barbara's Bulletin. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay engaged.